so you might need to look at your book for a little bit.
We're in chapter 9,
はい、
right?
はい、第9課。午前中、午前中, which means in the morning.
Oh.
Well, so break it up. This go means noon. This zen means before. Gozen. You remember that, right? From a long time ago? Gozen,
Yeah.
a.m. Noon before. So before noon, right? And then chu means in the middle of or in the midst of. So this expression is like for the duration of the time that is in the midst of before noon. Okay, that's a weird way to translate it, but you get the point, right?
Yeah.
So gozenchu. Let's say them together. Gozenchu.
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 Okay.
In the morning.
Hi, in the morning. Thanks. Kore?
After?
Hi. After, and it's pronounced atode.
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 Oh.
Atode. So, for example, jugyo no atode would be after the class.
仕事の
はい、仕事の後で after your work, you know,
卵を後で
卵を食べた後 you would use the past tense short form 卵を食べた後で学校に行きます yeah, after eating 食べた後 would be after having eaten the tamago, then I'll go to class, right? 卵を食べた後で学校に行きます。
So it's
after eating the
so 食べて後で
食べた後
Okay.
た this form
Okay, so 食べた後で
no 食べた後で食べた後で
It's just that the repeating threw me off.
okay 食べた後で so after eating so this one is
Zen.
Zen, but when it's by itself, it's pronounced mae. Mae, okay, which means
Before.
before. You remember locations? For example, Joe-san wa watashi no mae desu. Joe is in front of me.
Oh,
Remember that mae?
Yeah, now I
So
remember.
in front of and before are the same kanji. Hai.
Is that used for a name? Like
Yes, this is also the mae in namae. Namae,
Your
name.
before name?
Well, the na part means like a noun or the name of a thing, right? And mae is like the person in front of you. Have you ever heard the term omae for you?
Oh.
Yeah,
As in the one before me.
the one in front of me, omae. Yeah. It used to be an honorific.
And
Oh.
now it's insulting.
Right.
Funny how that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how long ago omae was considered a respectful term, but the o is an honorific. Omae, the honorable one in front of me, omae. Yeah, and now it's actually not rude for an adult to use to a child or for like a work superior to use to an underling. It's not rude in that case, it's just clearly defining the hierarchy that I'm higher status, you're lower status.
It's like starting every sentence with, because I'm your CEO.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, but it's not rude in the sense that it would be in English. You know, in English, it would be rude to go around saying, you know, I'm your boss and therefore I'm telling you what to do, you know, all the time.
Maybe
But
it was
in
years of
Japanese-
being used sarcastically. Who
Well,
knows?
no, in Japanese, that hierarchy is taken for granted as part of life and part of the way society is supposed to work. So it's not as rude, but it definitely does create that distance of high status, low status. You know, so it's perfectly acceptable in the right circumstances. But if you're using it to your friend, then it's a put down. Because you're putting yourself as higher and your friend as lower when really you're the same status.
Even if it's like, if you're very, very close friends. Because I know like when you're super close, you can refer to yourself
Well,
as right? So you can.
Yeah, well, and if you're close enough friends and you're doing it to each other, then it's not a put down so much, it's just very, very casual.
Okay.
But it's situational, and there are people who do not like it when their friends use that kind of term to them.
Period.
And there are also people who just habitually use some of these terms because they're just that kind of casual person. So like I'm thinking of a particular TV series that I like to watch in Japanese where there's a couple in the show who are just really coarse. They're lower income level. The guy is sort of abusive toward his girlfriend. And they use that kind of terminology to one another a lot because that's just kind of their style. And the woman, even when she's talking to her friends who are more sophisticated and speak more properly more of the time, she still uses that kind of terminology because that's just her style. She just uses that kind of harsh slang a lot, and her friend doesn't. So there's this interesting contrast, and she's not doing it to be rude, it's just her style. But it could come across as rude if you didn't know her well enough to know that that's just the way she is. So when she talks that way to strangers, it comes across as really rude and people get offended at her. But when she's with her friends, they get it. They understand, that's just the way she is.
Okay. So what are the particles of that? Is it like testing no mae ni benkyou suru?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, 行く前に勉強しましょう. Before we go, let's study, or whatever.
And
Yeah.
you have to use no for nouns like testu no mae.
テストの前, yes. Yeah, テストの前に勉強します. Before the test, I'll study.
And
Yeah.
if you wanted to use wa, you use something ni wa. Testu no mae wa. As for
Yeah, テストの前には勉強します. Yeah, yeah.
And then miwa is
The ni, and then you're adding the wa to say at this particular time, before the test. It's the emphasis thing.
oh, I
Yeah.
see.
So moving on, so that's mae. Okay.
Shiroi.
Hai shiroi, which is
White.
white. Yes, we're getting some colors finally. This
Woohoo.
chapter. Hai,
Gogo.
hai, gogo. So you remembered gozen, AM. Gogo is PM. And notice that it's the noon again. And this go is the same kanji as ato. So afternoon, gogo. Yeah, and it just so happens that both of them get the same reading. So that's why you've got gozen and gogo for AM and PM. Gozen and gogo. It's not noon, it's afternoon.
I was about to say.
Yeah, gogo. Oh, and these are stuck together.
Shiru.
Shiru, as in to know.
To know.
You remember steiru, steimasu. That's this kanji. The teiru form is a lot more common than the straight form. Shirimasen, I don't know, you would use the straight form. If you wanted to say shirimasen casual style, it would be
Shiru. Wait, what?
shirimasen. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know. Casual style would be shiranai.
Shiranai.
Right? Shiranai. Okay? I didn't know. There you go. Shiranakatta. I didn't know that. Shiranakatta.
We really didn't know that.
Right, now you do.
Is,
Imashiteru.
is it also used in the kanji for to teach?
Oshieru, no, that's a different kanji.
Oh.
But that's a good guess. Okay, so this is shiteru, shiranai, things like that. Shiranakatta, shirimasen deshita, right? Shiranai, shirimasen. Shiteiru, shiteimasu. Bless you.
Thanks.
Okay, this one is himasu.
Yes.
And if you wanted to change it to casual form, it would be
Konai.
Konai.
kuru,
Oh,
konai. Okay, and then over here it would be
Kota.
kite, kita,
Da.
and
Konakata.
konakatta, right. And all of those are with this kanji, so you actually have to know your conjugation pronunciations really well, because kuru, kimasu, and then konai, konakatta, kite, kita, they all get used with this same kanji, even though the pronunciation keeps shifting on you. It's an exception, this is rare. Most of the time, a single verb, the part that's embedded in the kanji doesn't necessarily change pronunciation for different conjugations of that same verb. This is an exception. Okay, so gotta be careful of kuru, konai, and kimasu, and all those variations. Okay, oh,
Blank.
right. 何も書いてないね。
タクシ
There we go.
これは
Listen.
午前。はい。
Me
We
already.
had 午前中 before, now we just have plain 午前。
Oh, right.
AM。はい。
Color.
Color.
古い。はい。
Furi.
古い means
Older things.
old for things.
Yeah.
And some people think that this ju plus kuchi resembles a
Old man.
gravestone.
Ah.
That's something old, right? Often. It kind of looks like a gravestone with a cross on top, right?
The gravestone kanji.
Yeah, so furui. So that's a way to remember it, right? Something old, furui.
Kuru.
Kuru, right? We just talked about that.
Yep.
Right?
Konai.
Konai.
Konai, we just talked about that one.
Not to be confused with kunai. It's a throwing knife.
Ame.
Ame,
Rain.
rain. Right?
Namai.
Namae, right? Remember, we talked about that one, namae.
I just find it very funny that it's coincidentally, like it's almost the same
Yeah.
pronunciations of name.
Right.
Name. Namai.
Ah, what's this one?
Ushiro.
Ushiro, ushiro, behind. So not only is ushiro the same kanji for what?
After.
After, it's also behind. Interesting, huh? Different
Yeah.
pronunciations, same kanji. So ushiro, ato de, and the second go in gogo are all this guy. Right? No ato. Yeah,
No
so
ato.
for example, jugyo no ato. When's it happening? Jugyo no ato, after class. You know, things like that.
How does that differ from Juwato?
Jugyo no ato de, or jugyo no ato. It depends on whether or not you need this de in that sentence structure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yep.
yeah. So, what's this one?
Then something.
Yeah, denwa.
Denwa.
Yeah, electric conversation is a,
Phone.
Phone.
Cell phone.
yeah, denwa. Yep.
We finally have Panasu Panashimasu.
Alright, there's,
Yeah,
there's
that's
the
the kind of-
wa for denwa. It's also the wa for kaiwa, conversation, right? And hanasu. Okay. There's hanasu.
Hanasu.
There you go. Hanasu. And there is
Aida.
Aida.
aida,
Between.
between, right? For example, ジョーさんはザックさんとサングンさんの間です。Right?
This is like review from chapter 3 or something.
Yeah.
Or 4.
Contrast aida kanji with the bun and shinbun. What's the difference? What's inside?
Oh.
The sun.
Yeah, aida has sun on the inside. What does bun have from shinbun?
Something else.
An extra line in the middle.
It's
The moon.
me, ear.
Oh.
Me.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, that's different from the moon.
Yeah.
What if there was the moon kanji in there though? Does that mean anything?
That one? I'm sure it does, I just can't think of what it would be offhand. But there are all kinds of different things possible on the inside of the
Gates.
gates. Yeah, this is the door or gate radical, right? This is the ear radical. Put them together, you hear the news, shinbun.
So wait, is that radical actually used for door?
Yeah, this by itself means to, which is a word for door. Or sometimes it's also read mon, which
Ah.
means gate.
Right.
Would that be part of the kanji for senko or senmon?
Senmon, I think it may be. If it's not this kanji, it's something that has that radical to it.
Senmon?
Senmon. I believe the mon in senmon is the same mon that's in shitsumon, which I believe has something else on the inside. I
Thousand
wanna-
gate?
No, it's a completely different sen. It's the sen that means like specialization.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the senmon kanji, I want to say that that's meh on the inside. Alright, this one. But I could be wrong. But it's not the same as Aida either. Senmon. If you look up senmon and shitsumon, I'm sure it'll turn up. Okay.
Well, it isn't in senko, so I guess not.
Yeah, well, senko and senmon are two entirely different words, and this
Oh.
textbook teaches senko,
Okay.
whereas the old edition taught senmon.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so at any rate, so this is Aida, right? It's also the kan in jikan, yes, which makes
time?
sense. Time duration, right? And you've got a sun radical, which is usually something to do with time, right? So it makes sense. And there you have
Jikan.
jikan. There you go. Jikan. So it's literally like time duration, right? Jikan. Okay. Kaku.
Kaku.
Kaku. Contrast kaku with, what did we just have that some people
Kopo.
had a hard time with? Koto and shigoto, right?
Yeah, I know it had the afro comb in there.
To the bottom.
Shigoto,
It's almost like it's upside down.
yeah, versus kaku,
Yeah, it really does look like an upside down version.
except that the bottom is a
Detached.
nichi instead of a kuchi and a separate line. But yeah, it's got this piece the same, but then some other parts of it are different. So again, I wanted to point out the contrast, so you can see the koto and the kaku. See the differences as well as the similarities so that you can differentiate them both in reading and in writing them. So that's kaku. Okay,
Skoshi.
skoshi. Anybody remember this one? Chisai, right? So
Small.
if something is a small number, you only have a little bit of it, skoshi, so it's a related kanji.
But
It's
it-
a chisai with an extra slash.
Well, it also says it, the meaning of the kanji is little, so what's the,
Little as in a little bit, not little as in small. That's a translation problem. They shouldn't use little, they should use a little.
so
As in,
small in quantity?
Yeah, skoshi arimasu means I only have a little bit.
So then why is it,
Chisai desu means it is small.
so then why does it use that for boy and girl in this one?
Oh, shonen shoujo,
Yeah, like,
few years.
ah,
Shonen is literally few years, youth.
Mm.
Okay,
Oh,
and
yeah.
shoujo is the feminine version of it, because shonen, I think it originally, although it was used mostly as a masculine term, I think originally it was sort of
catch-all term.
encompassing both, but then over time it came to mean just boys, so then they invented shoujo to compensate and have a feminine version.
that
So
explains
shonen
it.
and shoujo.
So, and you can also use that with dake, right? Like, skoshi dake arimasu.
Skoshi dake, yeah, skoshi dake arimasu. Yeah, I only have a little bit.
So how come that's used with, if somebody, like language, right? Like if somebody says, do you speak Japanese?
Hi.
It's skoshi dake.
はい、少しだけ, just a little bit.
So
Yep.
you have a little bit of Japanese.
Or you can only speak a little bit of Japanese, yeah. 少しだけ話せます. I'm only able to speak a little. はい、so, 少し. はい、and this of course is,
話す。
well,
Wait.
if it has the su ending
right.
off the end, then it's hanasu. By itself it is
話。
hanashi.
話。
Hanashi, which is a noun that means
Speech.
a story or speech.
Ah.
Okay, so hanashi is a story also. Anybody ever heard of mukashi banashi? You put the mukashi kanji in front, and mukashi banashi is with this kanji for hanashi. It just changes from ha to ba because of
Comes after.
a prefix. And mukashi banashi is like a fairy tale, a story about the olden days. Mukashi is like a long time
Ancient.
ago, ancient.
Ah.
So, and most mukashi banashi start with mukashi mukashi ni, a long, long, long time ago.
So it's not Musukashi Banashi?
No.
Difficult.
That would be a difficult story, not an old story. But hanashi is a story. Also, I'm trying to remember if it's this kanji or if it's the other one that's used in monogatari. If you've heard of like Kenji Monogatari,
It
That's what I'm
sounds
not
familiar.
story, man. I never even heard this word for
yeah,
story.
but this is hanashi. But the monogatari, I want to say that one might use the kanji for go rather than the kanji
Wait,
for
what
hanashi.
is that one used? Because I've
Monogatari is also a story,
ah,
yeah, but it's usually an old one, like from Heian period or something. Monogatari are very old stories.
it's like tale as opposed to
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, kind of like that, yeah, so, but hanashi is a story, okay? And hanasu, with the su coming off the end, not embedded in the kanji, is the verb to speak. So there's a distinction between hanasu and hanashi. They're the same kanji, but one has the su hanging off the end, and this one, the whole word is embedded in the kanji, hanashi.
Yeah.
Ie or
Yeah.
Yeah.
uchi. Yeah, you can read this one either way, depending on the context, ie or uchi.
So then why doesn't it list uchi in the
It does.
pronunciation? I mean, it lists it in the vocabulary, but all I see is
Yeah.
ka and ie.
Those are all different possible readings of it.
You would think they would
Ka,
include
ie,
it,
and
but
uchi. Yeah.
Because it's not in that
well,
box.
But it's over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a non-standard reading of this kanji.
Oh, okay.
Uchi can be written with more than one kanji depending on the context. This kanji would only be if it's being used for the home meaning, ochi. Okay? Ie is a more common pronunciation off of this kanji. And then ka in terms like kazoku is the common terminology there. Okay, and then we have
Nijikan.
Nijikan, so any duration of number of hours, Nijikan, 2 hours duration, right? You can also do it, for example, Ishukan, Nishukan would be a period of 1 week or 2 weeks. Ikkagetsukan, a period of a month. Ichinenkan, period of a year. So you can use the aida, kan term for all kinds of time phrases that mean the duration of that length of time. And then we've got
Tomodachi.
tomodachi. Finally, we have the tomo for tomodachi. Okay, and you will see this tomo in other contexts, particularly in some names. Tomoe and tomoko are common feminine names.
Tomoya.
Tomoya,
Mm.
is that a guy's name?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds masculine. Yeah, I don't know which ya they use for that kanji though. That's an interesting one. But, yeah, so, but tomo is a fairly common name component because it means friend. And that's one of those things that parents like, the idea of their children having that quality about them, right? So,
Is there
Hey.
is there a nuance difference between Tomodachi and Yuji?
nuance difference, yeah. Well,
Because there's no-
usage difference. Tomodachi is the more colloquial term. Yujin is more formal written form. So,
If you're writing a paper.
yeah, when you're writing some kind of a formal document, you might use the term yujin. But when you're talking or writing an email to your friend, tomodachi is the normal term to use. And that's true in a lot of cases, the onyomi versus kunyomi difference. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking that was my copy. Good thing you said something. Arg.
So for,
Hi,
no, I lost it now. Oh yeah, for house,
hi,
it also has wife, my wife.
hi,
Is that
kanai.
Is that how that's proposed?
No, that's,
Please be my house?
Please be my wife.
no, kanai literally means inside the house.
Oh, okay.
And,
And they just translate it as my wife.
well, kanai is a term that men
Like lady of
use.
the house?
Men use it to talk about their own wife, not about someone else's wife. I'm looking for where that one is showing up. And it would help if I were looking at the right chapter, wouldn't it? There it is. Yeah, kanai. Yeah, so if you look at the kanji compound there, it's literally
House.
house, ka, and then nai means inside or interior. So it's literally the person who's in the house, which is a very archaic view of a wife's role, but it's a common term for a spouse to talk about his own wife by saying kanai,
Even if she's not a housewife.
even if she's not a housewife, right?
Although I gotta say,
Yeah.
the kanji thing's pretty, it's pretty intuitive. There's the person kanji right inside a box.
Exactly. So it definitely indicates inside, doesn't it? You know, and then, yeah, the terms for husband and wife are fairly old-fashioned. And so a lot of younger people in Japan are starting to look for alternate terms to refer to one another. Because the terms for husband in Japanese, danna and shujin, for like a wife talking about her own spouse, both of them imply master. And a lot of Japanese women have a problem with that now. So,
Well, they could flip it and just call him Shujin.
well, they don't do that either. But I have heard other, like, loan words, for example, like darin from darling, used as a term to mean spouse for either gender,
Wow.
just because they're trying to get away from these sort of Confucian ideas of the spouse roles, because those gender roles are changing in Japan. Not as quickly as they're changing here, but they are changing.
And I guess wives can always stick with that.
Yeah, but that, anata is a term of address to the husband, not how she would refer to him to somebody outside the family. There's
Yeah.
there's
Did I
an
tell
important
him?
difference.
Did I tell you about you?
Yeah,
So, like,
no, so, yeah, anata would be like, you know, the woman is calling her husband and he's in the other room or something. Anata, hi, you know, and then she asks her question or whatever. And sometimes instead of anata fully pronounced, it ends up being anta, which can come across as rude, but it can also come across as just, they've got a very close relationship. Yeah, but even that one's getting replaced with terms like darin sometimes instead, because again, anata has that old-fashioned connotation. It's something that today's young married people associate with the way their grandparents talk to one another, not the way their generation talks. So a lot of that stuff is changing. So especially among like the young people, the people in their 20s and 30s who are married now. They don't like the terms that they grew up hearing their parents or grandparents use. They feel like those old terms represent to them, I think, the old style of relationship that those people in their family had, where the woman stayed home and was a housewife and did all the cooking and cleaning, and the man went out and had a full-time job, and the relationship between them was a hierarchical one. They weren't equals, and they didn't talk to each other or treat each other as equals. And Japanese young people don't want to stick to that old model. They want an equal partner in her marriage, and they want different kinds of roles. So a lot of women keep working after they get married now, whereas it wasn't that long ago that the assumption was you get married, the woman quits her job and stays home and takes care of the house, even though they don't have kids yet. And then some years after that, the norm became she keeps working until the first child is born, but then she quits her job and stays home with the baby. Now it's starting to be more common that she might take a maternity leave, stay home with the baby for a while, and then go back to work and have the child in daycare. That's becoming more acceptable than it used to be. It's still not as common as it is here, but it happens. And particularly teachers, I noticed. A lot of young women who were teachers had kids at home who are still fairly young, but if the kids are old enough to be in preschool, then she can go back to work. And a lot of teachers I knew had young kids.
Isn't marriage not that common?
What, marriage not that?
Isn't it kind of not that common?
No, it's actually the reverse. It's very rare for people to not get married in Japanese society, and
Even today?
yeah, it's still, there's a stigma attached for a woman if she's past her early 30s and still not married. It's like, what's wrong? Why isn't she married yet? She better hurry up. And for a man, a man has a little bit more time, but if he's 40 and not married yet, it's like, what's wrong with him? And again, there's a little bit of a gender bias there that, the norm is for a woman to marry an older man, not a lot older, but usually the man is a year or two older than his wife, generally. Same age marriages are becoming more common. A woman a year or two older, a man a year or two younger is becoming more common than it used to be, but it's still not considered the ideal relationship necessarily. But it's becoming more and more common for example, men who are farmers who live out in the countryside in a place that he might have a hard time finding a spouse. He might look for an arranged marriage with a woman from a city who's also having a hard time finding a spouse. And so he might marry somebody who's a few years older than him because there's nobody to choose from in his home village. If he lives in a village of a few thousand people and all of his peers have already gotten married, who's he supposed to marry?
Either that or he just doesn't like him.
Right. So it's becoming more common. Arranged marriages are still quite popular in Japan among people who haven't had any luck finding someone through the normal dating scene. So if they haven't met somebody through college or through work or through friends fixing them up, and they're starting to push that barrier, 30, 31, 35, and they're still not married yet, then they start asking friends and relatives to help out or even find a matchmaker.
Wait,
And
is
see if they
online
can find-
dating a big thing there?
It's getting bigger. Yeah, it's getting bigger. But it's still not unusual to hear about people who basically met a few times and said, okay, yeah, I think we're pretty compatible, let's go ahead and do it. And they get married.
Are kids part of that too? Like, is it like the
It's kind of,
expectation to have
it's expected to have kids, yeah, it's pretty normal.
Isn't the birth rate really low?
It is extremely low. They're averaging
That's-
only 1 to 2 kids per family these days, which is way down. It used to be 2 to 3 was the norm, and, a long time ago, 5 was common, but these days, a lot of families are choosing to only have 1 child, and some of them are having 2, but on average, it's less than 2 kids per household
Does that
countrywide.
Is the reason for that something to do with Japan's litigation with kids, or is it just times changing?
I think it's largely times changing, women getting married later in life and not wanting as many kids because they, one, want to focus all their attention on the 1 or 2 kids they do have, or 2, they want to go back to work eventually, and so they don't want to be out of the workforce for as long. It's very difficult in Japan to be out of the workforce for a long time and then get back in again in the same field. A woman who goes back to work later in life because she waited till her kid was, say, 13, she's not likely to get a career in the field that she started out in. She's more likely to just get some kind of arubaito, shop clerk or office lady, which is basically making coffee for the boss kind of stuff, not serious work. So if she wants a real career, she probably can't afford to take off much more than just maternity leave and back to work again, which kind of precludes having too many children.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So,
unless you triplets.
right.
yeah.
Oh boy, sleep deprivation, big time.
Yay!
Yeah, but, so at any rate, so social issues are definitely changing things, and the population of Japan, of course, is aging, which is an issue for them. They're worried about how are we going to pay for Social Security and, health care for this ballooning elderly generation when we have so few young people who are actually working. It's becoming a serious issue in Japan.
Because I saw a lot of old people, not a lot of kids.
Yeah.
That was
It's a serious problem. If they can survive that and keep the population relatively low, that's, in the long run, it'll be better for the country because they're so overcrowded as it is. But it's going to be very difficult for as long as this elderly generation that's so huge compared to the rest of the population lasts. And it's going to take a few decades for that balloon of elderly to pass. So it's going to be challenging for a few decades in Japan economically. They're having kind of the same problems we're having with the economy not doing great, and people finding that they have to downsize and they can't live as affluently as their parents' generation did because there's just not enough resources. So at any rate, getting back to tango, let's look at our vocabulary list as well now. Okay. So let's go ahead and do. Now, when it's the first time through, does it help to go through and just do the pronunciation first before doing the 3x3, or does it not really matter to you guys?
I think we can just do the 3x3.
Just the 3x3 is enough?
Yeah.
Okay, so iko,
Good child.
iko,
Good child.
iko.
Good child.
Good child.
Iko.
Good child.
Iko.
Good child.
Iko.
Iro.
Color.
Iro.
Color.
Iro.
Color.
Color.
Iro.
Color.
Iro.
Color.
Iro.
Obento.
Box lunch.
Obento.
Box lunch.
Obento.
Box lunch.
Box lunch.
Obento.
Box lunch.
Obento.
Box lunch.
Obento.
Kabuki.
Japanese theater.
Kabuki.
Japanese theater.
Kabuki.
Japanese theater.
Japanese theater.
Kabuki.
Traditional Japanese theater.
Kabuki.
Japanese theater.
Kabuki.
And you guys know that there's more than one kind of theater, right? Kabuki
Yeah.
is one particular style.
Yeah.
Okay, guitar.
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 kyonen,
last year,
kyonen,
last year,
kyonen,
last year,
last year,
kyonen,
last year,
kyonen,
last year.
kyonen.
Be careful not to extend the vowel on the first half because kyonen is the year of someone's death. Kyonen is last year.
Kyonen?
Kyonen versus kyonen. So make sure you're saying it the short vowel way, kyonen.
Oh, like last year as opposed to their last year.
Yes. Okay, kusuri,
Medicine,
kusuri,
medicine,
kusuri.
medicine,
Medicine,
kusuri,
medicine,
kusuri,
medicine.
kusuri.
Notice the idiom, kusuri o nomu.
Drink medicine.
Hai, kusuri o nomu.
Take medicine.
Kusuri o nomu.
Take medicine.
Take medicine,
Kusuri o nomu.
take medicine.
Kusuri o nomu.
Take medicine.
Kusuri o nomu.
Yeah, to be contrasted with Chinese, which talks about eating medicine, and English, which talks about taking medicine. So, kusuri o nomu.
Well, the drinking thing actually does make sense unless you got one of those gummy medicines.
Right, yeah, yeah, so kusuri o
No,
nomu.
pills, you would still need something to wash it down.
Yeah, yeah, well, and a lot of Japanese people still use like headache powder instead of a pill form. But you get a little packet that has like the aspirin powder or whatever in it, and it's a powder form, it's not conglomerated into a pill, and you just put it in your mouth like that, and then drink something real quick to get rid of that bitter taste. But lots of people still use those, yeah. Yeah. Concerto,
Concert,
concerto,
concert,
concerto,
concert,
concert,
concerto,
concert,
concerto,
concert.
concerto.
Kondo,
Your future,
kondo,
your future,
kondo.
near future.
Near future,
Kondo,
near future,
kondo,
near future.
kondo. Not a place where people live, right?
Sakubun,
Essay,
sakubun,
composition,
sakubun.
essay,
Essay,
sakubun,
composition,
sakubun,
essay.
sakubun.
Notice the kanji, we know those two.
Yep.
Those are from last chapter, sakubun. Skuru and the bun from bunka, right?
Right.
Okay, scan,
Exam,
scan,
exam,
scan.
exam,
Exam,
scan,
exam,
scan,
exam.
skin,
Ski,
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 ski.
ski.
Sengetsu,
Last month,
sengetsu,
last month,
sengetsu.
last month.
Notice the kanji on that one, last month. Sengetsu, last
Same
month.
one in sensei, right?
Yeah, sen from sensei and getsu from getsuyobi, right? Sengetsu. So last month,
Sengetsu,
last month,
sengetsu,
last month.
sengetsu.
So more and more, you're gonna find that there are kanji coming up that you guys should be able to read and write now. Tango,
Word,
tango,
vocabulary,
tango.
a type of dance.
Not exactly. Word,
Tango,
vocabulary.
tango,
Word.
tango.
And notice that tan is new kanji for you, but the go, you know. The go from Nihongo, Eigo, Tango. Okay, piano,
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 piano.
piano.
Pizza,
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 pizza.
pizza.
Leaning Tower of Pisa.
I'm sure there's at least one Japanese Italian restaurant that has a leaning tower of Pisa on their logo. Okay, byoki,
Illness,
byoki,
sickness,
byoki,
disease.
sickness,
Byoki,
illness,
byoki,
sickness.
byoki.
Notice that the byo in byoki is the
Byoki.
same byo in byoi.
There we go.
Okay, it's the same kanji.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like ill spirit.
Yes. Right. Aoi,
Blue,
aoi,
blue,
aoi,
blue.
blue,
Aoi,
blue,
aoi,
blue.
aoi.
Akai,
Red,
akai,
red,
akai,
red.
red,
Akai,
red,
akai,
red.
akai.
Kuroi,
Black,
kuroi,
black,
kuroi.
black.
Black,
Kuroi,
black,
kuroi,
black.
kuroi.
Sabishii,
Lonely,
sabishii,
lonely,
sabishii.
lonely.
Lonely,
Sabishi,
lonely,
sabishi. Sabishi.
lonely.
Sabishi.
Shiroi,
White.
shiroi,
White.
shiroi,
White.
white,
Shihoi.
white,
Shihoi.
white.
Shihoi.
And wakai,
Young.
wakai,
Young.
wakai.
Young.
Young,
Wakai.
young,
Wakai.
young.
Wakai.
Ijiwaruna,
Mean spirited.
ijiwaruna,
Mean spirited.
ijiwaruna.
Mean spirited.
Mean-spirited,
Easy wahuna.
mean-spirited,
Easy wahuna.
mean-spirited.
Easy wahuna.
Odoru,
To dance.
odoru,
To dance.
odoru.
To
To
dance.
dance,
Odoru.
dance,
Odoru.
to dance.
Odoru.
Owaru,
Something ends.
hai. Owaru,
Something ends.
owaru.
Something ends.
It ends,
Oahu.
it ends,
Oahu.
it ends.
Oahu.
Hai. Ninki ga aru,
To be popular.
ninki ga aru,
To be popular.
ninki ga aru.
To be popular.
To be popular,
Ninki ga aru.
be popular,
Ninki ga aru.
be popular.
Ninki ga aru.
Hi, notice the kanji, ninki, person, and the ki
Energy.
from ginki, right?
Person
So-
energy.
Yeah, so something or someone has person, spirit. Interesting, huh?
So it's,
Ninki.
oh, ninki ga aru.
Hi, it's,
okay.
yes, aru as in arimasu, ninki ga arimasu.
It's like the atama ga i thing.
Yeah, it's an idiom, interesting idiom, isn't it? Ninki ga aru. Hajimaru,
Something begins.
hajimaru,
Something begins.
hajimaru.
Something begins.
Something begins,
Hajimaru.
something begins.
Hajimaru.
Something begins.
Hajimaru.
Hajimaru, yeah, hajimaru.
Hajimaru.
Okay. Hiku,
Play.
hiku.
To play.
Hiku,
To play.
to play,
Hiku.
to play,
Hiku.
to play.
Hiku.
So notice that hiku means to play a stringed instrument or piano, okay? Anything that has strings as the thing that makes the notes, okay?
So,
And also look at the structure of the kanji for hiku. Anyone remember what that left-hand radical piece is from when we did radicals?
it's been a while, but I'm going to go out on a long limb and say that's going to be some sort of string.
Close.
It kind of looks like a snake.
This structure came from something like that.
Oh,
A bow, yes, as in bow and arrow. And what was the very
Bow
first,
string.
most primitive stringed instrument? Plucking the string of a bow. That was the most primitive version of a stringed instrument. So hiku actually literally means to pull. And you can pull a bowstring, you pull the string. You pull a bow across the string if it's a violin or viola or cello or bass, right? And you can also pluck it, pull it with your fingers.
And with a piano, you press the keys to strike the strings.
Right, and if you go back to like the harpsichord, that was actually plucking the strings, which is also pulling.
Oh.
And
so that's
hiku
what-
is also the verb that you will see on doors
Yeah.
when it says pull. You know how sometimes a door into like a 7-Eleven or something will say either pull or push, depending on which direction the door is supposed to go in? Hiku and osu are the Japanese equivalents. Hiku, pull, osu, push. And you will see those kanji labels on doors a lot. So if you see hiku and you recognize it, then you won't hurt your shoulder trying to open the door the wrong way. Right? Hi.
the second, or the second radical in that kanji is the same kanji that's used for the first part of tango.
Yes, it is. Isn't that interesting?
Why is that?
Probably has to do with a pronunciation similarity in the original Chinese.
Oh, okay.
So when you see two pieces like that, like the hiku kanji having that and then the, that component, most likely you've got, since this is obviously the meaning component, the radical, because it has to do with pulling and a bowstring is something you would pull, this has to do with meaning, right? And that's what they call the radical. The radical is the component that has to do with the meaning. The other component is generally a pronunciation component. But Japanese being what it is, and having evolved so distantly from its origins, the pronunciation piece may or may not be any help.
It might just be there.
It might just be there, you know. So like going back to mon, gate, some of them actually still have a somewhat similar pronunciation, like the mon in shitsumon. That's a pronunciation component. That's a pronunciation clue. The interior piece is a radical in this case, and a lot of them.
What is she?
The bun in shinbun and the mon, you know, that's not that close anymore, but you can kind of hear that there may have been a relationship in the past. The word shinbun probably has changed pronunciation multiple times throughout history, and it's shifted over time. So, but if you think about in Chinese, for example, this would be mun. You can kind of hear a relationship between mun and mon, right? So that's what's going on there. So the tan in tango, and let's see, hiku, I think one of the pronunciations for the hiku kanji as an onyomi might be dan. So tan and dan, that's pretty close. Okay, so hiku to pull. Okay, let's move on. So morao,
To get.
Memorize.
morao.
Memorize. Wait,
No, to
which
get
one are we
from
on?
someone,
Yeah.
morao.
Oh, I skipped one.
Yeah, to get from somebody.
Morao.
To get from somebody. To
Morao.
get from somebody.
Morao.
Morao, morao.
Morao.
To receive. Somebody gives you something, you receive it, right? So morao is to receive, to get, okay? Oboeru,
That's to memorize.
hai, oboeru,
To memorize.
oboeru,
To memorize.
to memorize,
Oboeru.
to memorize,
Oboeru.
to memorize.
Oboeru.
And if you look at it, the top half should look familiar from gakko, right?
Gakko.
Gaku, right? And the bottom half is miru, right?
Yep.
So when you're memorizing something, what do? You look at it and you study it, right? Jiro jiro miru, very good.
I'm
So
thinking
you've
though,
got two components there that both relate to meaning in this case. The top half is from gakko, study. Gaku is the study of, right? And miru, to look at. So you look at something and you study it, and that's how you memorize it. Oh boy, is it cool, right?
yep.
I love kanji. Okay, deru,
To exit.
deru,
To appear.
deru.
To attend.
Okay, to attend,
Deru.
to appear,
Deru.
to exit.
Deru.
So when they say appear or attend, it's like, for example, konsato ni deru, to appear in a concert. You know, kabuki ni deru, to appear in a kabuki play, right? As in being an actor in it. Okay, and then
But they both use the same
kyojitsu o
conjugate.
deru, kyojitsu o deru would be to leave or exit.
And
like
kyojitsu ni deru would be to attend the class.
Right, to appear or attend in the classroom, yeah. But kyoshitsu ni deru doesn't really get used very much. It would be used,
Kurasu.
konsato ni deru would be to appear in the concert, kabuki ni deru, but the blank o deru structure is gonna be more common in day-to-day life, where you leave someplace. Okay, so undo suru,
Do physical exercises.
はい、運動をする。
Do physical exercises.
運動をする。
Do physical exercise. Wait, would
Do
manual
exercise.
would manual labor qualify
No.
or
No,
oh so it's
this is like exercise.
like oh
To exercise. 運動をする。
like
Exercise,
運動する
to exercise.
運動する
Yeah, why they had to put physical in there, I don't know. I think just to keep it separate from like,
mental exercises.
a mental exercises like the renshu in the textbook.
Mm.
Okay, so that's what they're distinguishing it from. But undo suru is like, you know, sports, yoga, running, stuff like that.
Let's get physical.
はい。散歩する。
To take a walk.
散歩する
To take a walk.
散歩する
To take a walk.
take a walk
散歩する
take a walk
散歩する
take a walk
散歩する
はいから
from
から
from
から
from
from
か
from
から
from
か
ぜひ
by all means
ぜひ
by all means
ぜひ
by all means
by all means
ザヒ
by all means ぜひ
oh ぜひ
yeah
oh I was
by all
reading it as the
means
katakana one for some reason ぜひ
はいところで
by the way
ところで
by the way
ところで
by the way
by the way
ところで
by the way
ところで
by the way
ところで
みんな
all
みんな
all
みんな
all
all
みんな
all
みんな
all
みんな
careful on your pronunciation みんな is all 皆さん without the extra n is the polite form but みんな and みな should not sound the same みんな and 皆さん are two different words
I did not know that. I thought it was the same thing.
yeah they mean the same thing but 皆さん is more polite みんな is casual
Oh,
okay
can you say minna-san?
no
See, that's what I thought it was. I thought one was minna and one was minna-san.
no
That's how I was hearing it.
皆さん is like everyone, like honorific. 皆さん聞いてください. Everyone honorific, please listen. みんなで行こう. Let's all go together. Casual structure, okay?
is there an actual Japanese name that's Mina
No.
because I'm just saying Mina-san
Yeah. Okay, so も
Already.
う
already
も
already
うも
already
う already
more
already
more
already
more
Okay, numbers. 一つ
one
一つ
one
一つ
one
one
一つ
one
一つ
one
一つ
二つ
two
二つ
two
二つ
two
two
二つ
two
二つ
two
二つ
三つ
three
三つ
three
三つ
three
three
三つ
three
三つ
three
三つ
四つ
four
四つ
four
四つ
four
four
四つ
four
四つ
four
四つ
五つ
five
五つ
five
五つ
five
five
五つ
five
五つ
five
五つ
六つ
six
六つ
six
六つ
six
six
六つ
six
六つ
six
六つ
七つ
Seven.
七つ
seven
七つ
seven
seven
七つ
seven
七つ
seven
七つ
八つ
eight
八つ
eight
八つ
eight
eight
八つ
eight
八つ
八つ Make sure you
八つ
got the two in there.
八つ
Right, eight
八つ
九つ
nine
九つ
nine
九つ
nine
nine
九つ
nine
九つ
nine
九つ
tall
ten
tall
ten
tall
ten
ten
tall
ten
tall
ten
tall
Hi. Aren't you glad that Japanese only goes 1 through 10 on these, as opposed to Korean, which goes up to 99 with a second set of numbers, and has prescribed reasons where you have to use one versus the other.
Yikes. So it says used to count small items.
Yes.
Is
So
this
for
like that,
example,
is that like the counter thing, or?
it can replace the counters. So for example, let's say you're counting out how many M&Ms you're giving your friend. Okay, you're being stingy with them, so you're just counting them because you only want to give them 10, not more. So you would be able to, instead of saying ikko, niko, sanko, which would be one way to count small items, you could say hitotsu, futatsu, mitsu, yotsu, like that.
It's like dealing cards maybe as
Yeah.
well?
Sometimes, although that would be ichimai, nimai, sanmai more likely, because they're
Flat banks.
flat things, right? But hitotsu, futatsu also works as a sort of default setting when you don't know the proper counter. So if you have no idea what counter you're supposed to use for, say, backpacks, you could, count how many people have backpacks. Hitotsu, futatsu, mitsu, yotsu, like that.
Wait, what about if you're counting people in a room? Would you just have to use me?
No. Hitori, hitari, sannin, yonin, gonin, like that.
Oh, so you
the
actually-
first two, hitori, futari, come from the same root as hitotsu, futatsu. Then it switches over to onyoni for sannin and higher. Okay? The yon and nana when you're counting ichi, ni, san, yon instead of she comes from Chinese, yon comes from yotsu. Okay? Nana comes from nanatsu, as opposed to shichi, which comes from Chinese. So it's interesting that they've got that little bit of crossover between the Japanese and Chinese origin numbers, that when you're counting, you can say ichi, ni, san, shi, or ichi, ni, san, yon. Both ways are possible, depending on the individual. Sometimes some people have a habit of counting ichi, ni, san, shi, other people have the habit of counting ichi, ni, san, yon.
But there's no difference in connotation or anything.
Right. But there are certain phrases where one is correct and the other is not used. For
right.
example, shigatsu is always April, right? There's no such thing as yongatsu for April, right? It's always shigatsu. Shichiji for 7 o'clock. You don't say nanaji for 7 o'clock, right? So there are certain ones where one or the other is the standard.
But standalone, they're
Okay.
interchangeable.
But when you're talking about, how many erasers, for example, somebody has, you can count hitotsu, futatsu, mitsu, because those are small objects, right? How many keys somebody has on their keychain, hitotsu, futatsu, mitsu. How many buttons on your jacket, hitotsu, futatsu, mitsu.
How many
No.
crumbs on your face?
That would work too. So small objects typically, but also when you don't have a clue what the measure word is, this is a good fallback.
It's just like the thing for wearing clothes, where there's the wearing thing in general.
Right. Okay, so let's do some 練習。Okay, 217ページを見ましょう。はい。じゃあ、we're changing first into task affirmative. So my suggestion is dictionary form, TED form, ta form. Okay, let's say all three, so we're getting the practice. So kaku, kaite, kaita, like that. Okay, 3分3、1番。
話す、話して、話した。
はい、2番。リズさん。
死んで死んだ。
はい、3番、ジョーさん。
飲んで飲んだし。
はい、4番、ザックさん。
かける、かけて、and かけた。
はい、じゃあ5番、橋井さん。
行く、行って、行った。
はい、6番、本田さん。
遊び、
遊ぶ、
遊ぶ、遊んで、遊んだ。
遊んだ。はい。はい、make sure that if there's a de rather than a te, then it also changes to da rather than ta. That's how you know whether it's ta or da, is based on whether it was te or de originally. Make sense? So if the 10-10 was there on the te form, you got to transfer it to the ta form also. Okay, 3-7番。
作る、作って、作った。
作って、
作
作
っ
った。
た。
作る、作ります。So it's an u verb. So 作って、作った。It's got the small tsu in it. はい。
Is this
8番。
Deru is a
ルー verb。はい。
出て出た。
はい。出る、出て、出た。はい。9番、ジョーさん。
あれを、
洗って、
洗って、
はい。洗って、洗った。Because it's u, right? So うつる、つて、
What is
Right.
arao again?
wash。
Oh,
洗う、洗って、洗った。はい。10番、どうぞ。
okay. 来る、来て、and 来た。
はい。そうです。11番、マスさん。
行く、行った。
いや、
行って。
引いた、いや、引く、引いて、引いた。はい。で、引いた、引いて、引いた。right? 引いて、引いた。just like 引いて、引いた。はい。じゃあ、12番、お願いします。
待って、待って、待った。
はい。待つ、待って、待った。again、映る、そう、つって。はい。13番、3分 さん。
急ぐ、急んで、急んだ。
いいえ、急ぐ、
急ぐ、急んだ。
急いで。
お、急いで、急いだ。
はい、急いで、急いだ。はい。
そうです。
もらう、もらって、もらわな。もらった。
はい、もらって、もらった。は
That was
い。
negative.
もらう、もらって、もらった。Again, 映る、so small つって。Okay, ジョーさん、15番。
Is that the Uber? Or is it Uber?
踊ります。
踊る、踊って、踊った。
はい、踊って、踊った。With a small 2.
And what does that one mean again?
踊る、
Yeah.
That was a new one.
That
Was
was
that
a new
one a new
one.
one, sorry?
The dance.
to dance.
Ah,
踊る。
I don't dance, so I couldn't remember.
OK、踊る、踊って、踊った。はい、じゃあ16番。お願いします
選択する、選択して、選択した。
はい、選択したか。はい、いいですか？じゃあ、now we're going to do the negative. So again, past, so dictionary form to the past tense to the past negative. Or, sorry, dictionary form to the negative to the past negative. That's the path we're going to take, right? So, 書く、書かない、書かなかった. Let's do the 3 parts again because it's going to help you build that path in your brain so that you can get to it more easily. So, 見る、見る、見ない、見なかった。はい。じゃあ、2番、おばあさん。
知ってる、知ってない、
Yeah, してない。
してなかった。
はい、してなかった。
Which one was, what does that one mean
捨
again?
てる、捨てる。
Oh,
ゴミを捨て
throw.
る。はい、to throw something away. 捨てる。捨てる、捨てない、捨てなかった。はい、3年さん、3番。
Is that an Uber?
知る、知ります。は
あ、
い。
知る、知らない、
はい。
知らなかった。
はい。知らなかった。Make sure you're getting the smotsu in the かった。はい。
かける、かけない、かけなかった。
はい。
はく、あ、はかない、はかなかった。
はかなかった。はい。
Hajimaru? Wait, that's sort of 2, isn't it? Wait.
始まる、始まらない。
Ah, okay. Oh, that's right. That was one of the new ones. So, yeah. Hajimaru, hajimahanai, hajimahanakatta.
はい、始まらなかった。
That's a mouthful.
Notice that 始まる and 始める are not the same kind of verb. 始める、始めます。始まる、始まります。
Oh, I totally forgot that those were
Yeah.
2 different things.
Yes, they are. 始まる、始まらない、始まらなかった。Okay, カシさん、7番。
作る、
はい、
作らない、作らなかっ
はい、そうです。8番、アンバーさん。
た。帰らない、
Right, okay, so read the,
oh wait, first one, sorry.
yeah.
帰る、帰らない、帰らなかった。
はい、帰る、帰らない、帰らなかった。
So wait, what's the difference between hajimeru and hajimahanai?
Ah, we'll come back to that after we finish
Okay.
conjugating. はい、3番さん。
洗う、
はい、
洗わない、
はい、
洗わなかった。
はい、洗わなかった。didn't wash it. 洗わなかった。は
洗わなかった。
い、
来る、来ない、来なかった。
はい、
言う、
はい、
言わない、言わなかっ
はい、言わなかった。はい、12番。
Yasumu, yasumanai,
Hi.
yasumanakatta.
休まなかった。Make sure you get it.
Yasumanakatta.
はい、
What a
Hi,
wonderful
Yusan.
phrase.
覚える、覚えない、
はい、
歌う、歌わない、歌わなかった。
はい、使わなかった。15番、3番さん。
選択する、選択しない、選択しなかった。
はい、
運動する、運動しない、運動しなかった。
はい、質問がありますか？ Okay, so the question was about hajimaru versus hajimeru, right? Besides the fact that they conjugate differently, there's also a meaning difference as well, right? Who remembers which one's which? Hajimeru,
To begin.
hajimaru.
Something we did.
Something.
Okay,
So it's like active versus passive?
yeah,
It's like we start class or like something gets started.
right.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
start class or class is starting.
Right, so you start something or something
It
starts on its own. That's the difference.
And you have
Car?
to use ga for the maru one.
Right,
Both for the.
yeah, so jugyo o hajimeru, right? O hajimeru and jugyo ga hajimaru. Okay, and that's a way to remember it, ga ma. They both have the ah sound in them versus o hajimeru. So, jugyo o hajimemasu, I am starting the class, right? Jugyo ga hajimarimasu, this class is starting. You see the difference? So one is active and the other is passive, or transitive intransitive, if you prefer those terms.
Even if you're the one starting the class, can you still use the passive as like to emphasize it? Like if somebody asks to go to the bathroom 2 minutes after class starts, or right before class is about to start,
Yeah.
say jugo ga.
Jugyo ga hajimaru yo.
Like it's
Yeah.
gonna start whether you leave or not.
Yeah, it's about to start, so you better hurry. Yeah. Hai, jugyo ga hajimarimasu yo. The class is starting now, better pay attention. You know, versus jugyo o hajimemasu yo. I'm about to start the class, or I'm starting the class.
So they both technically mean the same thing, but the new.
But the nuance is there.
Yeah.
There's a nuance difference. Shitsumon ga arimasu ka? Other questions? So for now, we don't have a lot of those pairs yet. Green Book introduces a bunch of them all at once in one chapter. They mostly they take verbs that you already had one version of and they show you the other version. But they also do introduce some brand new ones where they give you both versions simultaneously. And like,
It's kind of ironic that it's a green book because usually green means something new.
Right.
Green
So,
on.
let's see, we are out of time, so for next class,
Oh, wow.
go ahead and work on your adjectives and nouns. Notice the past tense short forms follow a pattern that should be fairly easy to understand, right? And we'll also work on more informal speech. So do your listening so you can start to get the feel for the intonation. That's very important with short form questions and short form answers. 明日行く? 行かない. 昨日行った? 行かなかった. That up and down intonation stuff is really key to making it clear whether you're asking the question or answering the
It's
question.
like, you're going versus you're going.
Yeah,
It's also good because it gets harder to understand when the article starts to drop.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we will probably have time to move on to, again, using to omou and to ittemashita as suffixes with short form past. So, 昨日行ったと思う. I think he went yesterday. Or, 昨日行ったと言っていた. Yet he said he went yesterday. You know, you can do all that stuff once you have the short form past tenses. So, 昨日行かないと思う. Sorry, 昨日行かなかったと思う. I think he didn't go yesterday. You know, or 昨日行かなかったと言っていた. He told me he didn't go yesterday. That kind of stuff. So we will get to those on Thursday, I hope. And then we get to play around with descriptions of people too. じゃあ、頑張って。
The gigantic
宿題を
noun,
してください。
the gigantic noun phrases.
はい。Yeah, gigantic noun phrases are really useful.
Yeah. Blah 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 blah. Hito wa.